that fear that you feel, that tinge in your stomach, those butterflies. Yeah, this is what this is. They're just butterflies. Fear can never kill you. Go past your fear and ask the question that scares you. But instead of asking it to somebody because you're afraid that you're going through madness or you're doing something wrong, ask it to yourself and stop talking.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and I'd like to welcome back our good friend Ruba, aka Ruba the Heart Mender, who you may remember from our previous interview on the Spiritual Support Crew podcast. Ruba, how have you been since we last spoke? How are you doing?
Diving in and out of my dark night. It's quite a ride. Like seriously, it's maddening. It's absolutely maddening. It's beautiful. It's enjoyable. It is expansive.
Yeah.
It's quite a learning curve.
Because last time we were really talking about how you started your journey on like your spiritual awakening, I suppose, on a much deeper level, and how that happened during lockdown, and how you had all these realizations, and you did ayahuasca, I think, which is incredible.
Yes.
So how are you finding things now? Because I know you wanted to talk specifically about some of the differences between religion and spirituality today, but you're somebody that grew up in a quite a religious household, is that right? Because I didn't, so
Very
obviously I have a very
traditional,
different.
exactly. Yes. Very traditional, very, 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 very educated, extremely scientific oriented as well. Which actually, if I think about it, quite extraordinary, that the stark difference and how they were able to actually marry the logic mind, like someone like my amazing dad, he's a mathematical genius, he's a physicist, he's an engineer four ways. And my mother, who is the first of her generation to ever complete a university, yet get a master's degree abroad and go back home with something and open doors for her own generation. Yet I saw them throughout my entire life try to marry what they saw in this world, what they experienced in this world, what the world has exposed them to, with their tradition, with their religion, with their environment. And I saw the division and that created in them, and that duality that I grew up in, and everybody in my shoes grew up in. Oh, we do this in the house amongst us, but nobody outside is to know anything about what's happening. This is just for us. Nobody else would understand. So unfortunately, being exposed to so much and being given so many liberties from a very young age, and at the same time being told that those liberties were wrong, that those liberties were somehow not my right, that there's something that I am gifted by luck just because I happen to have the father that I have and the mother that I do. And I happen to be privileged enough to be living in the country that I am. Something did not compute. Something did not make sense there. Something created a huge rift for me within myself. But what is right, what is wrong? Where does God reside, right? If I am being myself, and me being free, and me exercising my human right of existence is something that is extremely wrong, something that is punishable by hellfire, by being ostracized, by being shunned, and by being completely divided from everything and everyone that you know. then and then I just had to stop. I really, really had to stop at a certain point in my life. And I remember it was the year 2018, 2019, when I completely actually lost any connection with anything that is considered God. I borderline atheist, you know. I remember talking to myself. I'm like, I'm doing everything by the book, literally. I'm doing everything by the book. All the rituals that I was told I needed to do, every word I was told I needed to say, every recitation that existed, I've done it to the T. Yet all I was feeling is emptier and emptier and emptier, until I had to surrender, until I had to say, this is not it. This cannot be it. And this is when I really, really sunk into the deep, deep, deep dark night of the soul. And that was the beginning of it, which was the later part of 2019, when I had my huge shock and my huge awakening, and the loss of the work and the family and the stability and everything that I thought was what I had to aim for, what I was told by every religious scholar, by every religious book, by every parent, by every adult I've ever encountered, whether in my culture or in any other culture. It did not make sense to my humanity.
So, do you think part of that was because you'd moved to a different country? Do you think that helped to facilitate this process? Do you think it made it easier for you? Because obviously, for everyone listening, can you just remind everyone where you were born and where you live now?
I am born in the Middle East. I am of Palestinian heritage, and currently I live in in Montreal, Canada, and I am a Canadian citizen. So this is where I live.
So, I suppose, depending on where you are in the world, this kind of awakening is going to look quite different, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I suppose being in Canada, you have more freedom to express that. I suppose by law you have more freedom to express that. Obviously, in your family unit or in your group of friends or your community, it may not be quite so easy still. However, so how was that for you? How did people react? You know, when you started to step back from the old systems of religion and to realize they didn't work for you.
In the beginning, there was a lot of like within my immediate household, it was a big shock. It's like, what is happening? What is going on? I was called a disbeliever. I was named an atheist. I was told that I was abandoning God, and I was told I was a woman of no faith. I was told to read more religious scriptures. I was told to go consult religious scholars. I was told to have an exorcism at one point because I was touched by the devil. So you know, I've I laugh now out of nervousness. I laugh when I'm nervous. That's just because I just in this moment realized how terrifying it must feel for someone who had thought that that I was a person who was behaving a certain manner, who was practicing religion in a certain manner, to the complete stark opposite. That is a shock for anybody. I just realized that I just got a realization online. So
Yeah, that must have been a big shock for the people around you, and maybe your family and you know your husband or whomever. But I can also see, because you were very much immersed in that, you know, that was a big part of part of your upbringing, that religion, then that must have taken a huge amount of bravery to actually be strong enough to be that authentic to yourself and to everybody else. That's not an easy thing to do.
When I went to university, I actually minored in world religions. I always my entire life was always interested in what the others thought, because I've always had this disconnect between my humanity and my God. My humanity was telling me something while my God was saying something different. It's only when I actually lost all hope in this God that I completely, abandoned him. It's just like the story of Abraham, when he actually took the axe to the idols. And when his peoples woke up in the morning and said, "Who has done this to our gods?" He just pointed to the gods and said, "Well, ask them what happened to them." That was my Abraham took the axe to the idol moment, and my idol just went down. I convey it as I had a garden that looked so beautiful, full of flowers and full of fruit, yet every flower in it was toxic and every fruit in it was a poisonous fruit. I just poured gas on it and I lit fire. And I went and I followed that tiny little voice of a human being that was inside. There had to be another way. This cannot be God. Whatever they were telling me God is, that cannot be God. There is God, but that is not it. And I went seeking God. And it's only then when I actually I was found by grandmother ayahuasca, and I was called to do the pilgrimage in Peru. And this is when the actual spiritual journey for me started. It's when I actually lost my idol.
Wow. Yeah. And it's interesting because in many ways I do see parallels, although our lives were completely different. I mean, so different, growing up in such different cultures, different religions. I mean, obviously I grew up in England. My family actually isn't religious at all, which I've always been very grateful for. Although, the schools in this country, there is religion in schools and you are required to learn all about Christianity, and we have this thing at the beginning of the school day called an assembly, which is basically like a cut down version of a church service. You sing hymns, you say prayers, and there may be some announcements. It's basically a church service by another name. And when I was, well, right from age 5, I think when I started at school, I rebelled very strongly against that. I was being told to pray to this God I didn't believe in and being made to sit and say prayers. And it felt so inauthentic to me. I couldn't feel it. Like you said, I couldn't feel that connection. And I was a very spiritual child, very connected child, but I couldn't feel the connection to what they were describing. I just couldn't see it. I was like, why would he be so angry? Why would he be so vindictive to us?
Exactly.
Yeah.
For me, it was the environment in which I lived, where I was told literally at every point to cover up my body, to cover up my face, to cover up my hands, to cover up my voice, that everything about me was sexualized, that I am a sin, I'm a walking sin. If a man would look at me, I am to make him sin against God, or I would, tempt him. And I was told that he is merciful, and I was told that this religion had given me freedom, and I was told that this is my way out, and I was told that it is okay to be beaten because in some scripture some man decided to interpret it this way, that polygamy is all right, that me as a human being, as a woman, to be traded and to be given and to be bought, and call it anything else under a religious banner, that is but that's not human. That is against humanity. Any human being would rebel under any of these circumstances.
I agree.
And
I do.
it's this stark division, and I've always been, again, this difficult child. My mom would tug me, she was like, shush, what are you talking about? You're gonna get us in trouble, girl. Shush. So this is where, so I went out seeking. All my life, I've had this seeker personality. I'm not satisfied with the status quo. If it felt wrong, that means there is something wrong, which gets me back to the very, very, very beginning and the essence of any spiritual awakening, the essence of the ascension, the essence of enlightenment, the essence of getting to the status quo of awliya Allah salihin, which is the praised people of Allah. Whatever you want to call it, in whatever religion, the essence of it is the person, the human inside. It is your intuition. It will tell you what is right and what is wrong. If at any moment it tinges at your core, in your heart, then it is not of the essence of God. Simple. It is just innate. It is just innate. All you have to do is stop your mind. Stop asking outside of yourself. Stop giving away your own will because it is easier. Oh, I'm not responsible. The priest has my sins now. I am not responsible for my sins. Right? Or I went to the imam and the imam said, if I repent now and I don't do it again, and if I pay an alms for 30 poor people, I am forgiven. I give it away.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about it in those terms, but that makes a lot of sense. It's giving away your personal responsibility.
It's easier this way.
Yeah.
It's easier this way. And why wouldn't anybody want to take the power? Oh yeah, give me the power of you. I will control you.
Yes, yes. I think we've definitely seen that over the centuries, haven't we? In the
So
various
it is a
systems.
trade. So to say nobody has a say in it, it is an absolute bollocks. And to say that to ask questions is to deny the will or to question the will of God. No, in the essence, any book, that's why it's a book. It is made for people with minds to assess.
Yeah.
With consciences and hearts to understand and to absorb.
Yeah.
لقوم يتفكرون in Arabic. لقوم يتدبرون. The Prophet himself, he used to sit in a cave for nights and nights and nights in meditation, exactly like the Buddha used to do. Exactly like any Zen monk is doing at this moment. Yet we are told, no, this is not how we do it. We do it 5 times a day and it's mechanical. You recite this amount of prayers, you do it this way, and that is the only way that it is done. It is a way of doing it. And it is physical because it needs to actually, it's a movement. You move to get the toxins out. It is not just mechanics. It's like toning with breath work. You breathe in and out. You present yourself like meditation. It is not mechanical. Yet we have never, ever had access to any of that. Only specific sects, whether it is in any religion I studied about, in any, and I've studied that, and I've studied a lot. Specific sects, like for example, those who study the Kabbalah, or the Sufis, or the monks. Oh no, that's them. They have their own ways. It works for a reason. spirituality. It is not alien to any religion on this world, yet it has been removed from every religion on this earth because it's easier. To be spiritual, it means to be accountable to oneself, to connect to oneself, to see where you lack in oneself, to see where you need to look in yourself, where you need to heal in yourself, so you can allow yourself the space to be present when you pray 5 times a day. Exercise all of those toxins when you're the proper way to breathe. Learn breath work. It is not just for the monks. It is for the humans.
Mm. You know, it occurs to me that a lot of this stuff, I mean, I do believe that the major world religions actually know this stuff. And I think we can look at history and see how religion was certainly used as a tool to control the masses, to control the people. At some point, an element of manipulation came in, and there are always going to be people who want to manipulate people, aren't there? I mean, that's just the world. And it always felt to me very much like the people higher up in the religion, you know, the higher up in the religious ranks, they were gatekeeping the knowledge. They know it's there. I've had a very interesting chat with an imam one time, and yeah, and I could tell he knew stuff, and I was saying things, and he was like, "How do you know that?" You know, and I was thinking, "Oh, so you do know? You just don't want to admit that you know this stuff, you know?" And it's fascinating, but there's gatekeeping. It's elitist gatekeeping, and I think that's what we have a problem with
Because
now, because we're
you
growing
understand
spiritually.
why.
We need it. It's like, stop, open the gate. We need to get past that now. We need to expand ourselves.
I will speak about the religions of the Middle East because I grew up with them.
Mm.
So by them, I mean Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. So the people who connect to God, the religious people, who actually do spend the night praying and communing with God, in whichever way that they decide, they do it because they want to do it, because they are present at heart. They do feel the connection. But because, just like me, there's this huge disconnect between what is in them and what they've ever been absorbed and they've been told and being made into. They feel that they are aliens. They feel that they are different. So they keep it to themselves. They fear that they are crazy, that if they told anybody, they'll be touched by the devil or something like that.
Wow.
So it is for me, especially in my dream phase. I mean, the awakening, when I first awakened, it's always about the dreams, right? Because it's always, for us, in the beginning, we have to see it to believe it. We have to sense it in our body. It has to be extremely agitating because our minds are so in control of our bodies. Our bodies have to react so violently. So they do come as very vivid dreams. One would believe that they're living them. For me, they haunted me for 2.5 years. My antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication went from 10 milligrams to 250 milligrams in a matter of 9 months. Because I couldn't. The more anti-anxiety meds I took, the more violent my dreams became, because the more layers they had to go through, right? Mm. They had to cut through a lot of because I kept hiding, I kept denying everything that I wouldn't see the signs. Yet in every religion I've ever been exposed to every religion I've ever studied, dreams are the one way that is all religions say, yes, if you are a pious human being and if you are a man of or a woman of God, God will commune to you through your dreams. And then came the more maddening. Who am I to think that I'm a pious woman to ever get any dreams? No, they must be from the devil. I look like this, I must be from the devil. There's no way, in any way, I could be connecting to anything that is God-related, holy, clean, of the essence. I had to tear my hatred of my own gender down, my hatred of my own self down, my unworthiness of the love of divine down. I had to tear that out of me layer by layer. To say it is easy is a lie, but it is simple the minute you take a decision. It is as simple as taking the decision, and decision is to connect. Say, I want to find a God inside. That voice inside of me that kept screaming every single time told me, well, you cannot question that because God said so. And I felt that killed me a little bit. I followed that pain, and I dug it out until I found my freedom, my human. And only when I found my human and I freed my human did things ever change. The things ever change.
Yeah. And it's funny because I often think that about religious texts or you know, like the Bible as it's presented to us in
They're books
school.
of they're books
They're
of
books of
magic.
man. They are books of magic, absolutely. But I also like to remind people, because people say, oh, this is the word of God. Well, I say, well, actually, it's the word of man. Now, I'm a medium, I'm a channel, okay? I channel messages, but I'm very aware, very self-aware that it comes through the vessel of me. It's not the pure word of whoever I'm channeling. It comes through me. It's like if you're filtering something through something, it's going to take, you know, like if you're filtering if you've ever done this. I tried to open a bottle of wine one day. It went horribly wrong,
What a
and I ended up with
perspective. I
cork.
actually never ever thought about it that
Yeah,
way. What a beautiful perspective.
yeah.
Wow.
I ended up with all these bits of cork
What a beautiful
wine.
perspective.
And I couldn't drink it, so I had to filter it, but I didn't have any coffee filters, so I just used a piece of paper towel to filter it through to get the bits out. And it tasted horrible.
For,
It tasted of paper towels. But that's what I'm
for,
saying about these books. They come through the filter of the human mind, particularly male minds. So of course
that's
they're
it.
going
For
to put the
me,
slant on it that they want. Of course they did. You can't be 100% pure channel. It's just almost impossible to do for a human being.
for me,
You know.
it wasn't that actually. For me, it was that we as people, we actually even stopped reading those books, and we went to people
Even
who read
worse.
those books on our behalf
Yes.
and asked them for advice. This is where I had the problem. Not in the books themselves. For me, the books are actually an essence and a source, a pure source of magic. I want protection. Whoop, right there at my fingertips, and I don't even have to think about it, not even twice. Who can say that? That's privilege for you and I, because we were given access to that type of magic. Not everybody in the world has access to even the books. Most of the planet don't even have access to those books. They go to people, and as you said, mostly males, who give them information about their own beliefs and their own understandings of what they read in a book. This is where I had the problem, because, oh, you're not allowed to ask that question yourself. Wait, you have to go ask the clergy. Excuse me? But in the book, it says this book is made for people to ponder upon. Not for me to take it to a clergy and say, please read it on my behalf and ponder upon it and give me your opinion about it. This is where the problem is. I do not give away my responsibility. It is here. I'm responsible for it. No, this is number one. It is made for, this book is to be able to comprehend it. Number one, use your mind, use your heart, use your senses. Sit down, pray on it, meditate with it. No, let's give it away. It's too much work. This is where I had the problem. And I still have the problem, because it is ingrained in us. And sometimes I still catch myself doing it. And when it happens, I get so irritated with myself. And then I remember that I am a human, and I am learning how to uncondition myself throughout years of conditioning. It is not a road that goes this way. It is a road that goes this way. So you better learn how to enjoy the ride,
So,
because it is a ride. It is a beautiful one once you start to discover yourself, the magnitude and the magnificence of yourself, the magnitude of the love that you're surrounded with just by the divine himself or herself or itself, whatever you want to call it. The magnitude of mercy, the magnitude of abundance. You see it and you don't, because you start when you start walking, once you start realizing this connection that you have, you start walking in it. It starts to become very sensed, and it becomes addictive. Then you go healing yourself. And the more you heal, the bigger the sensation gets, the bigger the love, the bigger the mercy. The more you heal, the brighter the house. Metaphorically, that is. Regardless of what's happening in the house, even if you're going through the separation from hell, or if you're still living with your parents and you're about to murder yourself because you're about to approach your 30 and you don't know what you're doing, even if in your society you're called an old maid and spinster, even if you're called a divorcee and a man-eater, whatever it is, whether you were an alcoholic, whether you were a murderer, a sexaholic, a workaholic, a food addict, a drug addict, that voice never stops. That voice never dies. What it gets, the more drunk you get, the more hyped up on drugs you get, the more travel you do, the more girls you put under you, the more men you put on you, the louder that voice gets, and the bigger that void gets, and the longer the distance you have to give back to yourself gets. Hear the bells, that voice, that ache, that pain, that pit of in your stomach, that maddening voice in your mind that speaks, it's not right, there has to be another way. Guess what? There is another way. It's called going back in, finding the one within. It is not outside of you, it is within you. And it is a very, very, very dangerous concept. It's a very dangerous concept. That's why major religions keep it to themselves. Because if we take back our autonomy, if every single person out there takes back their autonomy, what will they have then?
what will there be left for them to do?
The women are called mad. Their power within any religious clergy has been taken away. However, any woman that exercises any type of healing or religious power, she's called a witch, she's called a mad woman, or she's just labeled a medicine woman or a religious healer, and she's set aside. Alternate medicine. What's happening in this world and the way that we are being completely separated, especially in the Middle Eastern religions, it is inhumane. I'm not just kind of, it is inhumane. It has absolutely nothing to do with gender. It is killing both genders. The toll that it's having on the men, the amount of pressure, the ugliness that they have to live to prove that they are men. Why do they have to be this ugly to be considered men? Why? And why do our women have to be this? Devout of any humanity, to be objectified, yet to be taught at every corner that this is God's will and this is for her own protection, and she's being told to love it, live it, and believe it. And there's that deep, 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 deep voice inside that screams, no.
Yeah. And I do think that is why, on some level, it's not easier, but maybe it is easier. Maybe it is more obvious for women to step away, because we've had a worse time with religion over the centuries. We've come off much worse than men So
I come
I
from
think we
privilege.
were more motivated to step away from it because we were like, hang on, this doesn't work for us. Maybe there's something else. And, you know, being the feminine energy, we're more receptive to spirit anyway.
I
But
don't
I
know.
feel,
Had I
what do you think about that? Do you think it's easier for women to step away, or because
I would
that's what I
say
see in the West? Yeah.
In the West, yes. But in Asia, in the Middle East, in Africa, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. The eye does not look there. The eye look at the eyes look to the West first, right? A woman is not a woman until a Western woman has been made a woman, has been recognized as a woman. We have been recognized as women, as bodies, as voices, like we sound like women, genderized, sexualized, yes. Humanized, not yet. Again, I'm going to bring up Britney Spears. That woman cannot even go outside of her door without her father say so. Every single religion has a man's control of women on it. Up until recently, many women around the world were not able to even drive a car. They weren't even to travel. They weren't even allowed to put themselves on a bicycle. They didn't have the choice to cover their hair or not. They did not have, many women, even in the West, don't have the choice to cover their hair or not. In France, a woman does not have the right to cover her hair anymore.
Mm.
What is this?
Yeah.
Women are not recognized as women. We say they are recognized as women. No, they're not. Absolutely not. We are given crumbs and we are being told, oh, this is your freedom. Go. And we're drugged again by little bits and pieces. But little bits and pieces don't work anymore. God is not gray. Freedom is not gray. Light is not dark. There's a stark difference. And I believe it's about time that we recognize that in order for you to find any peace anywhere, you have to go back. You have to go back within. If you ever think that you're going to find help from God anywhere outside of yourself, you are gravely, gravely mistaken.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And this is what I'm always saying, you know, with the new era we're moving into and the return of the Christ consciousness, it's within. It's not a person who's going to turn up and save us. We have to save ourselves. It's within. It always was within us. We just forgot, or we became so disconnected from it. And that's what we're reconnecting to right now with the return of this Christ consciousness. And I find that incredibly exciting.
It is very sad that I cannot even find a word in my own language that would describe what you are talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, if I were to go to anybody that speaks my language and I would speak about Christ consciousness, I would absolutely be labeled an infidel. I'll be labeled a blasphemer, or I'll be labeled a reverter. There isn't a language. There isn't a word in my language that I can actually take to describe what I'm going through. This is what I'm here to do. I am here to find that language because it exists somewhere, because it exists inside of me. I feel it. And if I feel it, I cannot be the only one out there that does. Not with the thousands and thousands of people that I'm connecting with on a daily basis. Not in person, but again, as you say, in this day and era and after this pandemic, there has to be a better way. There has to be another way other than the pill. I'm going out seeking answers from someone. Mm. Ask yourself next time. Mm. You'll find a much better answer. I promise you.
And that's it,
in my
isn't it?
humble opinion.
And that's it. It's looking within Francis, and this is, I think, it's the what I call the spiritual anarchy, or the as we move into the age of enlightenment, it's where we reawaken those things within us. So we do look in, and we don't need to go to someone outside of us. And this is why I think we will see governments fall, because they just won't be necessary anymore.
And we have
We're
the tools.
outgrowing
The
them.
tools are really not outside of us. The books that you have been controlled with, they are the same books that carry the keys to your freedom. All you have to do is just turn the lens from outside to inside and project that light inward. Stop thinking with, oh, I don't deserve this because I have sinned. You deserve this because you need to get out of the hell that you dug yourself in. Hell is not in the future. Hell is a state that we create for ourselves and we live every day. And heaven is the process that we take ourselves out from the hell that we put ourselves in to get to heaven, to paradise, to nirvana, to whatever it is that you want to call it, enlightenment, oneness. It is the process of finding yourself to get to the one. It is not a place, it's a person.
Lovely. And I think that's it, isn't it? But thank you so much for joining us again, Ruba.
Thank you for giving me the space.
Of course. Of course. It's always wonderful. I love to hear you speak, and I love to hear your perspective coming from such a very different place, because obviously Western women, we're very privileged compared to a lot of women in the world. And I think it's
We
really
are, aren't
interesting
we?
to hear
We
the
are.
stories from other parts of the world, because it's easy for us to lose sight of that and forget that. So, yeah, would you like to just
I am
remind everyone?
privileged to be connected to both. I understand my privilege, and yet I see how long and how much we still have to work to get so many of us who has not even been looked at yet. We have not been personized yet.
Yeah.
We still have a lot of work to do. And whatever we've been getting, these are the crumbs that we've been given to make us quiet down a little bit until plan B being put up. And as you said, there are many women who will never, ever, ever accept plan B anymore.
Absolutely. Would you like to just remind everyone where they can find you?
You can mostly find me on Instagram. This is where I live. My handle is Ruba _ the Heart Mender.
And you have a YouTube channel as well, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And I hope you'll get to link it down below.
Of course, I'll put the links in the description below. So it's been wonderful to speak to you again. Do you have any final words for people, or any recommendations for people who are maybe looking to discover their spirituality more, but perhaps come from a religious background, don't know where to go with that?
Yes, that fear that you feel, that tinge in your stomach, those butterflies. Yeah, this is what this is. They're just butterflies. Fear can never kill you. Go past your fear and ask the question that scares you. But instead of asking it to somebody because you're afraid that you're going through madness or you're doing something wrong, ask it to yourself and stop talking. Stop talking. Put your mind to the rest. For the first time, do it for 10 seconds. The second time for 30 seconds. The third time for 40 seconds. And when you make it to 1 minute, then you will start to hear the voice. Make it to 1 minute. That fear is nothing more than smoke.
Thank you.
You're most
Great
welcome.
advice. Great advice there. Well, thank you so much, Ruba, and I will speak to you soon. You take care.
Bye.